In this section, we're going to learn how to deploy the application to a live server. At the moment, we're the only ones that can preview the application. We can't share it with anyone. That's a shame. We've worked very hard on this app. I think it would be a good idea to share it with the world. The first thing we need to do is pick a hosting service. There are dozens of services available. Every single one of them has its pros and cons. You will need to do research to find out which service suits you best. Some of the most popular services are Heroku, DigitalOcean, AWS, and Netlify. I consider them to be great choices. For this application, we're going to deploy it to a service called Vercel. Vercel is a service for deploying your applications. It supports dozens of frameworks and languages out of the box. This includes Vue.js. It's my personal favorite. I use it for client and personal projects. It's quick and painless. Hopefully, by the end of this lecture, you'll love it too. Signing up is free and easy. You don't need a credit card for an account. They allow you to upload hobby projects for free. You don't have to pay anything for them to host your project. Pause the video, register an account, and log in. Once you've got an account, let's begin deploying the project. Open the command line in your editor. So far, we've been using the dev command to build our project. The dev command watches our project. If changes are made to the project, it'll compile the project with the changes. After the code's been compiled, the page on the browser is reloaded. This command is great for development, but it's not the command we'll use to build our project. The dev command doesn't fully optimize the build for production. It's meant for development only. If we want to build the project for production, we'll need to use the build command. Unlike the dev command, this command will compile and minify the project. It'll remove development dependencies, optimize the build, and deliver your files in a single directory. Run the build task. This may take a while for some of you. The project will have been successfully built. We can find the project in a directory called distribution. Let's look at this directory in our editors. The files you'll find in this directory are the files you want to deploy to the host. You don't need to deploy anything outside of this. Vite has taken the time to compact everything into as few files as possible. The next step is to upload this bundle from our machines to Vercel. This process is what's known as deployment. Vercel comes with a tool for deploying projects with a single command. We'll need to install the tool if we want to deploy the project. We can install the tool by running the following command: npm i-g vercel. It's important we install this as a global command. This way, we can use it with any project. This installation may take a while for you. Be patient. Vercel is a command tool for interacting with Vercel. It helps you with deploying a project to Vercel. The next thing we need to do is to connect our accounts. The Vercel tool won't be able to know where to upload the files if it doesn't know which account to use. We can connect an account by running the command vercel login. The vercel command is a global command that was installed after installing the package. After running the command, it'll ask you for the email tied to your account. Input the email you used to register. It'll ask you to confirm your email. Check your email for the confirmation link. The confirmation link should take you to a similar page I'm viewing. It'll tell you that your account is now linked. Great! The next step is to deploy the project. Let's go back to the terminal. We'll run the vercel command. Be sure to run this command in the project you've been working in. The vercel command will ask you a few questions about your project. Let's run through them together. The first question it'll ask you is if you're sure about deploying your project. Select yes. The next question will ask you which account you'd like to upload to. Your name should appear in the list. Select it by pressing enter. Then, it'll ask you if you would like to link this project with an existing project in Vercel. This is a brand new project. We'll select no. Afterward, it'll ask you for the name of the project. By default, it'll use the name of the directory the command is running in. I'm going to enter music example. Up next, it'll ask for the directory where the production build of the project is stored. Vercel is compatible with dozens of frameworks. It can even build projects for you. You don't have to build it yourself. It'll detect what framework you're using. It'll be able to run the appropriate commands for building the project. If you would like to let it build the project for you, you can leave this at the default value, which is the project's root directory. Even though we've built the project, we're going to let Vercel rebuild the project. We're going to leave this option at its default value. The Vercel command will detect the framework we're using. It's going to assume some things about the project. It'll ask if you're okay with the settings it generated. Feel free to modify this. For our purposes, the default configuration works fine. Select No. It'll begin to deploy the project to your accounts. This project has been successfully deployed. Let's check it out. You can view the project by clicking on the link in the log. Vercel will provide you with a custom URL for viewing your project. We've successfully deployed the application. You can log in with the dummy account you created during the development phase of the project. We can even listen to any of the songs we've uploaded. Everything works without a problem. Fantastic! Hopefully, I have convinced you that Vercel is a service you should consider for deploying your projects. It can offer so much more. We've only scratched the surface. Before I end this lecture, there are some final adjustments I'd like to make to the project. It's something we overlooked during the development phase of the application. We're going to modify the rules we created for the database and storage. The database rules in Firebase are not entirely secure. At the moment, any user who is authenticated can modify the documents in the database. This includes documents that don't belong to them. Let's fix this. Open the Firebase console in your browser. Navigate to the rules page for the database. We have two rules. One is for reading and another for writing. The rule for reading the database is fine as is. We aren't storing anything super sensitive in the database. The writing rule is what we'll want to change. We want to create rules for when we write, create, or delete documents from the database. We can create special rules for each of these scenarios. By default, Firebase will use the writing rules for all three. However, it's not the best way to write our rules. The rule we currently have is checking if the user is authenticated. If they are, they will be allowed to edit any document. We want to restrict the documents they edit to documents they own. We're going to change this rule to the following. If request.auth.uid equals resource.data.uid. The resource object refers to the document the client is attempting to access. It has information about the document. We can access the data with the data property. Through this object, we can access any of the values in the document. The condition we're writing checks if the ID on the client matches the ID in the document. We assigned the user ID to the UID property. If the client attempts to write to a document they're not the owner of, the request will be rejected. This is a much more secure way to limit writing permissions. One problem with this rule is it'll also apply to when we're creating documents. We can't obtain an ID from the document if it doesn't exist to begin with. We still want to be able to create documents, but this rule will reject us. We'll create a rule specifically for creating documents. Below this rule, we'll add the following. Allow create if request.auth equals null. This rule is the same rule we had before. We're going to allow any authenticated user to create a document. There's one last rule we'll write. If a user attempts to delete a document, they'll be rejected because we haven't covered that scenario in our rules. We'll add the following to the rules. Allow delete if request.auth.uid equals resource.data.uid. The rule for deleting documents is the same as the rule for writing documents. We want to limit what documents the user can delete by making sure they own the document they're trying to delete. We're finished with writing the rules for the database. We'll publish them. Let's move on to editing the rules for the storage. Switch over to the rules page for the storage service. We won't have to make any changes to the rules. We've got some pretty good ones. We're going to add the following to the rule set. Allow delete if request.auth equals null. If we request a file to be deleted, Firebase will check we're sending a file with our request, which we aren't if we're deleting a file. It'll automatically reject the request. We need to write a special rule for when the file is deleted. In this scenario, we're checking if they're logged in. We've successfully written a view application. Our journey is not over yet. We'll be diving into much more advanced topics. If you've made it this far, then I have the utmost confidence in you. When you're ready, I'll see you in the next lecture.